The USA has 169 volcanoes that could erupt, and here is where they are. Not forget that out of the 20 or some odd supervolcanoes around the world, the US has two of them: Yellowstone, and that's in Wyoming, and Long Valley Caldera in California. Of course, we have Alaska, which is, some say, a supervolcano with all those volcanic chains of the Aleutian Islands. And so it's not just Hawaii. The US has 169 volcanoes that could erupt anytime. There are potentially active volcanoes all over the western Alaska, also Hawaii, which has a hotspot, and about 50 are considered high priorities for monitoring. And here's where we can find them. Volcanoes could be tricky, as we know, and they can build to a major eruption in a crescendo of shudders and spatters, or explode with almost no warning, and they can lie in wait under a magnificent snowcap, the centerpiece of a landscape of beauty that they could obliterate tomorrow, or in 10,000 years, or never again. Then there are more of them in more parts of America than you might think, and here's the rundown where their locations are. This is Mount Hood, by the way. Now, the United States Geological Survey counts 169 potentially active volcanoes in the country. Some of them straight from the textbook conical mountains, like this one, topped with craters, and others that hardly look the part at all. About 50 of them in 6 states are rated high priority, or the highest priority for monitoring. They're high threat, in other words. This is the Loihi Seamount of Hawaii, the underwater volcano that will, of course, create a new island in the Hawaiian island chain. So 169 potentially active volcanoes, and others that hardly look the part, about 50 of them in 6 states. A few have been active in modern times, others last erupted hundreds or even thousands of years ago. The area of the Cascades has very active volcanoes, and we have the PNSN, Volcanic Pacific Volcanic Index. Oh, that just wiped out the, it shows us the earthquakes, but it's for some reason not working today. Why is that? It shows us the earthquakes, it's Mount St. Helens right near Newbury, Hood, and Baker for 30 days, but I see this it wiped out. Okay, that's all right. We'll see what's happening later on. Now, Hawaii, the state's landmass owes its very existence to volcanoes. They're volcanic islands. Each island is a product of at least one volcano. The Big Island has 5 volcanoes, including Mauna Loa, the largest active volcano in our world. Now, Kilauea is one that has lately been opening new fissures, spewing lava, forcing evacuations. This a little while ago. This has been erupting in one way or another continuously since early 1980s. Mauna Loa has erupted 33 times in the past 175 years, and the Loihi Seamount, the submarine volcano, about 20 miles offshore, erupted in 1996. And farther north and west, the islands are older and quieter geologically. Maui's only active volcano, Haleakala, is believed to have erupted most recently at least 400 years ago. Though it has attracted many a visitor to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park over the years, Kilauea's long-running eruption has taken a significant toll. Now, Alaska. Hawaii often gets the headlines, but Alaska has the numbers, at least 50 volcanoes that have been active in the state since 1760 and attracting substantial attention from the volcano watchers and researchers. Many are concentrated along the arc of the Aleutian Islands, part of the Ring of Fire around the Pacific Ocean, where earthquakes and eruptions are most common. Of course, the Ring of Fire goes along the Aleutian Arc, all the way to the west coast of Canada, all the way down from Alaska, all the way down to Vancouver, all the way down to the Cascades, all the way down to Mexico, and all the way down to the west coast of South America, as we know. So one of them is more worrisome than usually than others right now. Scientists at the Alaska Volcano Observatory have an alert for Mount Cleveland, where they have been detecting seismic and thermal activity and occasionally ash clouds. And like most of Alaska's volcanoes, Mount Cleveland is a strikingly remote, unpopulated areas, but 4 of them are close enough to Anchorage, the state's largest city, to be potentially worrisome. The gravest problem that Alaskan volcanoes regularly pose, though, is not on the ground, but thousands of feet in the air because of the ash, like this one here, the volcanic ash. And researchers estimate that 80,000 large aircraft flying over or near Alaska volcanoes each year, 80,000, making them vulnerable to volcanic ash. When a commercial jetliner flew through ash in 1989, all 4 engines briefly shut down and the aircraft dropped 13,000 feet in just 8 minutes. It managed to land safely in Anchorage, Alaska, thank goodness. The Pacific coast, from Canada to Mexico, all of the American West is dotted with volcanoes. Some are in the Sierra Nevada, like Long Valley Caldera, supervolcano, believed to have last erupted 16,000 years ago. Others help make up the Cascade Range in rural Oregon and Washington. One is Mount St. Helens, about 50 miles from the Portland area, which erupted explosively back in 1980, causing an avalanche of debris and wiping out forests and wildlife for miles. American officials say it is the most likely out of the contiguous U.S. volcanoes to erupt in the future. Another is Mount Rainier, the tallest of the Cascades, soaring scenically near Seattle and Tacoma. It last erupted around 1,000 years ago. Lassen Peak, less than 60 miles from Redding, California, erupted most recently in just 1917, creating the eerie landscape of Lassen Volcano National Park. Mount Hood and Mount Shasta have each erupted in the last few hundred years. Now, in Wyoming and the Rockies, I'm looking at the PNSN, the earthquakes are still not there. I don't understand what's happening. Why do they not have them listed? What's happening today? So Wyoming and the Rockies, volcanoes are not always individual mountains. There are volcanic fields scattered across the West, where scientists have found cones, lava floods, and signs of relatively recent eruptions. One of the most popular national parks, Yellowstone, is home to the volcanic activity that has been playing out for about 2 million years, and indeed it is responsible for some of the park's most spectacular sights. Let's remember that Yellowstone, it has 60% of the world's geysers, and it has over 10,000 hydrothermal areas. Now, the park was profoundly shaped by a super eruption about 640,000 years ago. An event like that today would bury parts of Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Utah, and Wyoming in several feet of ash, and ash could end up as far away as Chicago, Los Angeles, and St. Louis. But such an event, or even a mild one, that would interrupt Yellowstone vacation is highly unlikely to happen without a lot of advance warning, according to the Geological Survey. Yellowstone has not erupted for the past 70,000 years, so it's going to take some impressive earthquakes and ground uplifting to get things started. The last super eruption was 640,000 years ago, but the last eruption was 70,000 years ago. Scientists watch Yellowstone for signs of action, but the other volcanoes sprinkled through the mountain states are seen as low risk that they're so low risk that they're not being monitored. So most volcanoes are where geologists would expect them to be, along the rough edges, cracks, and hot spots in the Earth's crust, and have been around a long time, but it's not unheard of for a new one to appear completely by surprise. Consider Paricutin, which rose from a Mexican cornfield starting in 1943. Can you imagine? Out of nowhere. The New York Times noted that in 1952 that it had given scientists a unique opportunity for a study, as it was the first volcano they have been able to examine daily from the moment of its birth. Paricutin is now dormant, but its history remains central to understanding the science of volcano development. This does not mean that the 1997 movie Volcano about lava suddenly welling up under Los Angeles might come true. Well, probably not. Though there are active earthquake faults in the city, the earth's crust is not moving there in a way that tends to produce volcanic activity. This is from the New York Times by Alan Binder, and it's on Bended Reality. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.